do. 1 second. We're going live. All right. We are live. Okay. Today we're looking at 35206. Just scanning over yesterday as I moved a little bit from, I think we're in Avondale yesterday. So I just went a little bit more to the east, picked the property, 4 bedrooms and above. And this is a 4-bed, 1-bath. Looks relatively good shape. I mean, the floor looks fine. Maybe I'll set aside some money to paint the place for half the square footage, and that's probably all the cosmetic rehab I really need. But for the most part, this property is rent ready. I mean, I guess you could upgrade a bathroom a little bit, maybe just using like a white tub to make it a little bit more modern, some subway tiles. Okay, this property is relatively straightforward. Okay, now the first thing I want to do is let's put down what my listed asking prices, which is 180 grand. For my rehab, I'm gonna go to my rehab calculator spreadsheet. I always set aside $1,500 for the roof, just in case there's any issues. $500 for landscaping, just kind of keep everything tidy. This property is 1,300 square foot, so it equals 1,300. I'm gonna take 20% of that, so divide that by 5. So about $780 for just any touch-up paint. If I need to get somebody out there, no cabinets need to be done. I always replace the high pressure flush toilet, and I'll probably replace the bathtub and shower turnaround for $500, just to kind of give myself some room to renovate the bathroom there. So I got roughly around $4,500. So relatively turnkey, right? Not a big rehab. $4,500 is not much compared to the overall scheme of things. Now, the next thing I need to get is my monthly income rents. To get my monthly income rents, I have to Google HUD FMR to get my ceiling rents. FMR stands for fair market rents. So when I click on the first link, you want to scroll down to the area where it says access to small area FMRs, look up FY 2025 FMRs, go to Alabama, go to Jefferson County, which is the county that this property is in. And you want to look up 35206. 35206, and now you're going to see the rent ceiling by bedroom count, by zip code. So it's $1,500 for the 3-bedroom or $1,700 for the 4-bed. $1,500 for a 3 and $1,700 for a 4. And this is 35206. 35206. All right, now that we got our rent ceilings, I need to go and get my market rents. To get my market rents, I go to affordablehousing.com. I go to the owner section, go to the market rent estimator, come on in here, and I'm just going to copy and paste this address right in the address box and put in 4 bedrooms for this property. And the number I care most about here is going to be this number here on the bottom right. It says that for 25 units within 2.85 mile radius, the average rent is $1,500. Great. So now that I can see $1,500 here, now I can see that 1943 for the county. That's pretty much consistent. 1943, 1346 for the city, 1269 for the zip, $1,500 within a 2.85 mile radius, which is a pretty big radius. But I'm going to use the lower of the two, right? So when you see $1,500 for the 4-bedroom, but then you see that the ceiling rent is $1,700. Normally, you have to deduct some amount from the $1,700, the rent ceiling, because you're not providing utilities, but also because of the rent reasonableness test. Now, the rent reasonableness test is if you go to the Housing Choice Voucher Program Guidebook, HCV, you'll see that in section 2.2, and again, HCV stands for Housing Choice Voucher, which was previously known as the Section 8 program. They rebranded it from Section 8 to Housing Choice Voucher because of all the negative connotation that was previously associated with Section 8. So that's why we have new program called the Housing Choice Voucher. Now, in section 2.2, it says that in consenting rent reasonableness, the PHA, or the Public Housing Authority, that's who kind of determines all of the rent, they must determine whether the rent to the owner is a reasonable rent in comparison to rent for other comparable unassisted units, which means you can't charge more rent to someone simply because they are a voucher holder, right? For all the obvious reasons. So in determining comparability, obviously all this stuff matters, but size and unit type matters, right? So you got to compare single family homes against other single family homes. So because all 4 bedrooms are typically single family homes in Birmingham, you don't really see people building or having 4-bedroom apartments very, very rare. So that's why I have confidence that this is the reasonable rent to use. And that's why I'm using $1,500 for my rental assumption right here, because that's a more reasonable rent. To get my property taxes, I have to go to, I'm just going to use what's listed in Redfin at 167 right here, 167. And then for my insurance, I got 139. So I'm going to add an extra 20% premium by equals 139, which is listed right here, times 1.2. So I'm adding a 20% premium onto this property. Why? Because typically that insurance estimate is for someone with the intention to use this property as a primary residence. When you turn that into an investment property, typically companies view that as a riskier product or riskier asset. So they're going to charge you more premium. So that's why I'm adding a 20% premium right now, just in case. Now, I got 10% set aside for my rent every single month for maintenance and big replacement items. So, as an example, I'm going to have to do a roof replacement on our property in Scottsdale. All the quotes have been at least $12,500 to $15,000. So if you don't set aside, let's say $150 for 100 months, then when you get that $15,000 bill, this extra $150 that you thought you were making every single month evaporates. So don't be that person going 100 months, not setting aside $150 for the roof when you know it's going to have to get replaced and less than that, right? So really, really good example. You got to set aside that amount of capital because that money doesn't belong to you, right? Don't overstate your profitability because you're underestimating your expenses. Then you got 10% for your property management. You got 5% for your vacancy. And let's go ahead to our next part. So in my down payment percentage, I am going to be at F19. I'm putting 25%. And my down payment is going to be calculated as B4, my asking price, multiplied by my down payment percentage, F19. So I'm going to be paying $45,000 down as a down payment for this property. So my finance amount in case 6 is going to be equals to my asking price, B4, minus my down payment amount in E19. So I will be financing $135,000, right? If I bought it for $180,000. At 8% interest rate, I'm just going to put in 8/31/24 using yesterday's date so it doesn't trip up the formula. So assuming that is the case, I would be negative. Assuming I rent this property for $1,500, I'd be negative cash flow $199 a month, and that's a negative 4.4% return. Assuming I set aside 2.5% for my closing costs of the purchase price and $4,500 roughly for the renovations. All right, so $180,000. So the whole point of the exercise is I want to show you how to come up with a set of terms and a price that will make this a deal. If you lower your asking price, watch what happens to this cash and cash return number. Let's say I go to $100,000. Well, now all of a sudden there's a 9% return, right? If I go to $95,000, boom, now I'm 10.5. So if my target is 10% return, I might be willing to pay up to $97,000 for a turnkey property that looks like this, assuming everything else to be constant, which means my rehab does not exceed $8,500. And because in this situation, I'd be cash flowing $257, assuming I'm still renting out for $1,500. Now, obviously, this is not investment advice. We're not soliciting any investments on this call. I'm simply showing you how to stay objective when you're looking at a deal and figure out whether or not this deal is worth your time to investigate further, right? That's the whole goal. Right? Yesterday we looked at the deal. We're like, oh, okay, let me actually look a little bit deeper in here. Let me see if this might be a deal, right? Might is the key word. And if you know that they're listed for $180,000 and you're trying to offer $97,000, chances are they probably won't look at it, right? So that's one scenario that you have to go through and think about it. Now, if you get it for $97,000, now all of a sudden you determine what your buy box is, okay? Now, let's say this seller owns this property free and clear, and they don't owe any money on it, so they can finance it to you. Well, if they are so hell-bent on this $180,000 number, well, what if I gave them 25% down, but then I gave them 0% interest rate? So I'm asking the seller to become the bank and finance this property to me so that they have a say in the interest rate. So if I go to 3% or 0%, well, now all of a sudden this might work, right? If I lowered this to 0% interest rate, even $180,000, I'd be 9.3%. So if I lower my down payment a little bit in F19, Now all of a sudden it's a deal, right? So the same deal that wasn't a deal, 180 grand because of the interest rate, can be a deal if I gave it 20% down, assuming a 0% interest rate. So it's principal only payments every single month. But I would still be 10.4% cash on cash return in this scenario, even though you quote unquote might be overpaying for the asset. And overpaying is a really relative term, because if your goal is to cash flow and make a certain yield on your investment, then see how big of a difference this makes. So this is how I want to kind of talk through, how do you come up with a set of terms that actually makes this a deal in your favor, right? And this is the best way for you to go about it, by maneuvering and adjusting each of these inputs one at a time to see their effects on the cash on cash return. Now, obviously, there might be people that just want to break even, right? They might just want to break even and say, hey, if I make, let's say I buy a property for $1 million in Southern California, and we know that it's been going up by 5% every single year. Well, who cares about $100 of cash flow a month when I can make 50 grand a year from appreciation? Now, obviously, that is very speculative. It's very risky. And it's not something that you can truly underwrite for, right? It's technically speculating. So it's very risky. But it's up to you, right? That's why it's your own strategy. You got to talk to your own investment professionals. You got to make up your own decisions about your own risk tolerance and what your risk appetite is and what your strategy is. Some people might want to do a little bit of that, a little bit of that, right? A little bit of appreciation, no cash flow or negative cash flow even. And there's some properties that produce cash flow. So now all of a sudden your portfolio works for you in your favor. So just think about all these different situations of how all these items can come up and affect your strategy. All right. So I hope you all are able to copy my homework today. You can look at the same deal I look at today, right? This is the same deal that's on the REDFIN. It literally just got listed 3 days ago. So probably this property will not accept a seller financing deal. But hey, if it's still there, 180 grand, and 100 days from now, maybe they're more willing to talk and look at seller financing offers. So just be aware of those situations. And then from that point onwards, if you guys want to copy the spreadsheet, right? I didn't make the spreadsheet from scratch. I got it from a few other folks. I combined it, I tweaked it, I modified so that I can analyze these deals a lot faster. Just want to copy the spreadsheet, just go to affordablehousing.io, go click on your name, your email, your phone number, and that is the fastest way for you to get a copy of the spreadsheet. And I promise I won't spam you. So have an amazing Sunday, everybody. I'll be back again tomorrow for day 338, I believe. All right. Have a good one. Talk to you tomorrow.